Hello, everybody. So, first of all, welcome to this session. If you don't know me, I'm Zimberg, and I just want to first of all thank the Don't Block Your Blessing and Arezu and the entire team. What an amazing festival! And if you're just tuning in because you know me, make sure you check out all the amazing other speakers, healers. We have a group of amazing musicians today that are joining in the festival, and artists, and just you can recognize that this is truly from someone's heart. Right? This movement, this creation happened because something happened in Arezu's life, right? He lost his mother. And instead of just suffering from that, he allowed that to be transmuted into creation. And that's really what we're going to kind of look at today. Today's session is called Accessing Flow, to access flow and to own your own value. All right? So, I do trainings with people in evolutionary human development, which is my company. The first process is access points, and that's going to be the first thing we're really going to look at here, is how do we start to shift to the core of ourselves. Only from there can you actually own yourself, trust yourself, and have clarity to come into alignment. All right? And then we go deeper into this freedom with emotions process, and in the next technologies we do willingness to welcome everything, is where we start to really go into our life story and see how the drama is something that the mind thinks of as negative, right? We're told these are the bad emotions our entire lives, and these are the good emotions. So as the body reacts to that, and the mind reacts to that, we'll start to kind of have a discernment and become aware of, all right, how we are stuck in our mind and how we're stuck with the battle with emotions. Because it's uncomfortable, because it's associated with some past trauma and drama. So the mind is always either in the future or in the past. The mind's always one step out of reality. And my intention, my interest in being in your life for this moment or any other moments is to really have you come to yourself, right? I'm going to talk about owning your value, but before that, I want to talk about knowing yourself, all right? So I'm going to, in a short period of time, in 45 minutes to an hour, break down what I've experienced as the true dynamic of flow and how you can actually access flow. And I'm not just talking about flow state. So first, let's talk a little bit about flow. What are some of the notions and the ideas of what people think flow is? Flow is like when you're in that groove state, everything's moving in a perfect way, you're in alignment, or most people just think of it as that you're in that state where like nothing's bothering you, right? You're in the zone, okay? Now, that's true. That is what flow is, as a state. Now, a flow state doesn't remain. A state comes and goes. So if we're always trying to be in that state, and we think that that's what flow really is, we either are going to do something to get to that flow state, which can be a great technique or something you learn along the journey, a mindset, or some way of having yourself shift into that embracing, okay? And that's wonderful, but what happens when you're not in that state, now the comparison of the mind goes, oh, I've lost it, I'm not in it, and therefore, like chasing a carrot, like a treat for a dog, the animal then has to go figure out what to do to come back to that flow state. What I'm suggesting to you is that true flow state has room for your ebbs and your flows. So like if you're looking like a roller coaster, it has room for the going up and has room for the coming down. Room for the going up, room for the coming down, right? That all parts and aspects of yourself are included. So we're going to break down a little bit what flow looks like. All right, so I'm suggesting that it's not a temporary state. That true flow is being able to attune, to align to the truth of who you really are, to the greatest self that you are. I'm going to lighten up the camera as I see here. To finally actually come home to yourself. Like, so know yourself so well. To know yourself so well is to know the clarity of yourself. Okay, so first, to really live flow, we have to have room for it all. All right. First, to really flow in a dynamic way where you are on that river. You're on that river of life. You're on that roller coaster of life, and you're taking the fearful up, 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 and you're taking the ride down, right? Up, 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 and you're taking the ride down. Now the mind goes, oh, this is the best. I'm so high up. Oh my God, I'm scared, but here I am, world. I'm here. It's going to happen anyways. I let go because I'm about to fall. And then the mind thinks the falls in your life are bad, right? The heading downward, the ebb of your life is bad because it doesn't feel so good. It's uncomfortable. The mind starts to do what with that? So this is what we want to see. If there's not room for it all, then it's always a pushing away of some part of it. We only want the peak, but there's no room for this quote-unquote low. Now this happens along the self-help journey, self-development journey, because we don't recognize that this seeking of making myself better has an underlying current. And this is really important. I'm not saying that all the development isn't amazing and didn't help you evolve and doesn't continue to feed your evolution. But what I'm interested in is your fullest awakening to your core self, to your authentic self, to that which is already aligned, so that you can move into a natural, creative self-expression. That is real flow. When you recognize the gift of being you. When you don't have to listen to the doubting mind or the figuring out mind to see, am I actually getting this? Am I actually okay? Am I here? What should I do? What should I not do? That's all in the figuring out mind. All right, so we're going to take that into, first of all, right, space for it all. We'll talk deeper into as we go in this conversation. So we'll give that accessing flow kind of that little subtitle of space for it all. Okay? So space for it all. How does that look like to have space for it all? So first we need to look at reaction. Well, second we need to look at reaction, okay? So the body mind is constantly in a reactive protective space. It's in a reactive protective space. And that reaction is compounded by and made up of this one main operating system pattern. In access points, we've discovered 5, after working with a couple thousand people since 2002, we've discovered there's 5 overarching paradigms, or we can call them patterns. But these aren't patterns to be manipulated, changed, or fixed. These aren't patterns to believe your mind that says, why are you doing that? What's the matter with me? These are actually patterns for you to start to allow yourself to become aware of this operating system. And as you become aware of this operating system, you stop being stuck in the mind. Because this is the way the mind keeps attention stuck with it, stuck with the thoughts of you, stuck with the story about your life, stuck with judging yourself, stuck with the critic. So in order to recognize that reactivity, what we need to do is start to recognize that our entire life has been a conditioning. Who are you? What is your name? What are you going to do when you get older? Right? When we're a child, the child grabs something, mine. We have to claim our identity, claim our sense of self. That claiming of our sense of self is also the patterning of avoiding emotions that are uncomfortable. So we have some dramatic experiences that happen in our life, and we're forged in this fear a fear of anger, or a fear of unworthiness. And in that fear of anger, fear of unworthiness, there's this void. And so the root of what that void is, the root of where the reactivity is that the body mind, all right, we all get that if we were swimming in an ocean and a shark came up to attack you, there would be a sense of fear. And that fear wouldn't be bad, it would actually be good, because you wouldn't be like, I wonder if I should swim away. What should I do about this? I don't know if I'm going to be okay. You wouldn't have time for that, right? There would just be an instinctual reaction of protect. And so if you knew how to hit that shark in the nose, I think there's a nose punch with sharks, you would do that very quickly. Or if not, you would swim away, right? So this protection mechanism is always to keep the body-mind safe. So we get that if an animal jumped in your room right now, a tiger, there'd be fear, you'd run away, right? You would protect yourself. So what we want to start to come to a realization of, okay, and this can only happen through a true self-inquiry. In other words, we can't turn to the mind to get it. The mind can never understand. That's why every great sage and every great book that has ever been written, right? The first line of Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching says, I'm going to use words to describe the nature of reality. But since words are part of that nature of reality, just cross my legs here. Since words are part of that nature of reality, what I'm about to write isn't it. Lao Tzu literally disowns the Tao in the sharing of the Tao in the first line. Right? Because a finite, a thing, a label, a concept cannot grasp the infinite. And if the core of yourself is actually aligned with that, connected to that, I am, as the root of who you actually really are, before all thoughts that come and go, before all emotions that come and go, before all experiences that come and go, then we can start to have a shift. Okay, so this is what's necessary to notice. So we have the reactivity. Now, reactivity is coming from the avoiding of the unknown. Okay, this is this root pattern. Okay, there's 5 main operating system patterns, but I want you to really just hone in on this root pattern. The mind is always avoiding the unknown to maintain this special me. So let me break that down for you a little bit. But even in understanding this, that'll be a surface level, right? We have an intellectual understanding of something, and we can change it into a mindset, we can change it into a belief, but we want to transcend even the mind's idea of it, because that will never be it, just like Lotso was pointing to. So for you to discover what it is to really own your own zone, to be in your own flow, to own your value, to operate from this divine alignment, is to come into accordance with life. So therefore that means come into accordance with yourself. So that room for it all means you have to have this willingness to welcome every aspect of who you are. As long as there's some part of you that's being judged, pushed away, to seek the other part of yourself, that movement to I need to be better is great to evolve and grow, but the truth is we're doing it from the surface level, right? So our reaction, avoiding the unknown to maintain special me, is this root pattern of how our attention turns to mind. What you can start to recognize is that my attention is very simple to recognize and to move. All right, so I always say, like, you can look at, say, my necklace and see what color it is. So that was like, did that take a lot of effort to move your attention? Fairly simple, right? Fairly effortless. So what I'm proposing to you is that most human beings' attention is actually stuck in their thoughts immediately, and stuck in the reaction in their body's discomfort or emotion. So you may be more of an emotional body or mental body or physical body, but it goes right into a perceptual way of life, into thought. And when our attention is with thought first, we're in a do, have, be paradigm. We have to do something to have something to be something. And whatever that is, you can fill that in. It doesn't matter whether you're a spiritual seeker, you're a high-level entrepreneur kicking ass, right? Or you're somebody with mental dis-ease, which are the 3 types of people that I work with, really, right? It kind of covers everybody if you think about it, right? But what every one of them says to me is, I just want to get out of my own way. So how do we start to discern what is actually the you that's in the way, and what's the you that's actually free? Well, we want to start to see how there's some discomfort, there's something that's being avoided. And I'm suggesting to you ultimately that's avoiding of the unknown. So the question I often ask is, do you know for sure what's going to happen next in life? Do you know for sure what's going to happen next in life? And can you ever know for sure? For sure. You may, unless you're like the best psychic in the world, and if so, like call me up and we'll do some betting or something, like in Back to the Future. Remember in Back to the Future where Biff goes back and he has the almanac, and I think what's his name? Michael J. Fox's character had it first, right? And he's going to go back and bet on all these things, and Biff doesn't and becomes rich, right? Well, that's how life would be, right? If we just could predict everything. But the truth is we don't know what's going to happen next. And we're in a time in history where we just got hit with one of the most novel events that has ever occurred. This whole pandemic corona time, right? And really, Me Too movement was a leading up into that. There's like a shadow rising, things that we already knew were there that are coming up to be seen. And that's part of what this void is, this void of the unknown. So as much as the body-mind, okay, this is the connection we want to make here. As much as the body-mind would swim away from the shark or get away from the lion that jumped into your room, this mind, identity, the one that tells you the story of who you are, what you should do tomorrow, where you're going to go, what you're going to do, the conversation in your head, if you're right, you're wrong, you're good, you're bad, that identity, that conversation can never actually be free, because it's always jumping into a concept, a paradigm, or a label. Therefore, there's Lotso who says the Tao, which is the totality of life, right, this embracing of it all, cannot be known by a word, by a concept. So there's no word, concept, or label that can actually grasp the core of who you really are. So our entire lives, we've been programmed and trained to take in information, apply it into that do, have, be paradigm. But if we really explore this, whether we're doing this thing to have the right relationship to be loved, or the thing that the do, have, be is being loved. So a sense of connection, a sense of worth, maybe a temporary fulfillment. But is it a lasting fulfillment? Or if we do the right thing, we have the right job, we'll be successful, so now we have money, and that might make the story of your life easier and smoother, but does that make you happy? Does that have your relationships be fulfilled? Does that mean now you like yourself and you're flowing in yourself? Or do you have these things? Same with, do the right thing, have the Ferrari. So at the end, being is some sort of fulfillment, right? Some sort of fulfillment that has you feeling good, fulfilled, but yet temporary. So we're doing something to have something to be fulfilled. Being, do the right thing to have the right thing to be the right thing is actually first. Okay, now this is so simple that the mind will always overlook it. Just like this moment is so simple, like the nose in front of you can't see unless you like hone in on it, like go cross-eyed, right? So this moment, this presence, this I amness, this isness of you, the totality of you, the core of you, isn't something that is reachable. It's not graspable. You can't hold on to it. So many people have like experiences of flow or zone or enlightenment experience or an opening experience or a oneness experience. And that high is pointing to this pristine connectivity, this stillness, this silence, which includes the labels, which includes the separation, which includes the mind and your emotions. When we start to recognize that spaciousness, that core of ourself, that center of the storm, which is already still, then we have space for all of us, and we can start to become aware how we're avoiding the unknown, how we're avoiding some discomfort or energy. So the way you can start to inquire into this in your life, because for this to be effective for you, I want you to start to take these inquiries into your life. Like, check this out. Don't take my word for it. Start to see if this operating system pattern of your mind is actually occurring. And if it is occurring, you don't need to fix it or change it. You don't even need to figure it out. There will be some mental trying to get what I mean. What does he mean by that? And this first pattern is a little bit of a mouthful in a way. But after a while, you will start to see it for yourself. What we discovered, these 5 main operating systems, after I worked with all these people, is these were the ones, when people recognized these operating systems, they broke free from being identified with that survival mind, that separate mind that always has to have the opposites and figure itself out. That we can actually live life not having to believe our mind, but use our mind instead of it using us. So to investigate the operating system, this root pattern of avoiding the unknown, is first you can just start to check it out. Like, what is the unknown? What is the unknown? Just in your life as an overall intention. How do you avoid? What is it that you avoid? Is there emotion, the discomfort, situations? Notice how that avoiding pops you into your mind. And that pop is like, I think the best example I love to give, that pop is like, magnets that come together, boom, right? That's where flow is going to exist, when we're connected. The drain of that is like, boom, it's magnetic, it's attraction, and that's where manifestation and real flow, when we access that flow, we start to become a fluid, creative being. And in that, our own unique DNA, true self-expression starts to be the movement, right? Because the truth is that the mind that's in that do-have paradigm is always putting up being over there. Being is over there. When you get to it, it's temporary, and then you got to do-have be again. So our tension in our mind keeps us in that paradigm. Keeps us seeking some over there, which is going to finally get you happy, fulfilled, enlightened, successful, whatever it is. Also, if you know anything about law of attraction, it's also denying that that thing is actually already here in the infinite field of potentiality. All right, so avoiding the unknown. What is the unknown? How do I avoid? Start to notice it's like the magnets. When the opposite sides come together, it propels it, right? Boof, it pushes it away, and it's a powerful, and bam. So this core void, this edge of the unknown, the entire animal's running from. And as much as, again, it's protecting its physical body, it's always protecting the idea that I am who I think I am. I am the lead in my movie. I am this story of me. And this is who I am, and this needs to be protected. So the mind's main job is to create separation. So we can see each other, so we can perceive each other, so we can be in creation, be in life. Now, some people say we're in the matrix. The truth is, you're in the matrix when you're stuck in your mind. Science tells us that 98% of our thoughts are regurgitated thoughts from the past. 70% for many people are negative. Now, many people here may have worked on themselves, so that could be less. But overall, these thoughts, right, 43 gigabytes of thoughts a day going through your mind stream, the noise is louder than it's ever been before. The mind is louder than ever it's been before in all of history. So we can't just do what the sages of the past did and hope that if we do those, we'll have the right experience. If I do my mantra, if I do whatever, that could be helpful stepping stones I'm not against, right? You can still utilize these things. But recognize if you're doing them to have peace, to get to enlightenment, if you're doing them to have happiness so that you can feel fulfilled, you're doing it to feel love, so on and on. It's all a postponement of true fulfillment. But true fulfillment is found in the beingness of you. That you will start to discover that you being you is already fulfilled. That being itself, presence, consciousness, I am itself is already fulfilled. And that you are connected to that. But the operating system of the mind that needs to project attention through the filters of that past perception, through the perceptions of the mind, the labels, the concepts that have all come from the past, where the mind labels something, cuts it apart, dissects it, compares it, rips it up, argues it back and forth, all to see, take all that information, say, am I safe? And put it in a compartment. And most human beings are living from the compartments of your past. And that's why wherever you hit a ceiling, or feeling like a ceiling's pushing down on you, or a hamster wheel, or the part of your life where you feel stuck, or the emotion that you're still battling with, or these loops of your mind that seem to drag you down, where there's any kind of stress, by the way. You could be like, I'm living a great life, but 83% of Americans say right now they experience a high level of stress and anxiety. Look what's going on in the world. Okay? So it started with the Me Too movement, we saw racism, we saw child trafficking, as Corona is basically telling everybody, none of you know what's going to happen next. That's reality. You don't know what's going to happen next for sure. So if we inquire into that, we can start to see, okay, how do I turn to my mind as that's propelling, that magnet's propelling from that discomfort, that thing that you avoid, right into mind. And then through mind, creating your reality. Now, if we're able to shift to the core of ourselves, we have no choice but actually to be with the unknown. First, we have to become aware that we're avoiding it. Then we can actually embrace the unknown. Once we can embrace the unknown, it's like an ally. It can be trusted, and you recognize, oh, this edge, which I'm going to get to a little deeper in, this edge of the unknown is actually the fire of life. That thing, that energy source that propels us into perception, that propelled us into all of our life, through the good, through the bad, through everything, that moves us, the cells in our body that are communicating now, that allows the sun to rise. That infinite intelligence, creator, God, life, whatever it is that you call that, because the name doesn't matter. Well, maybe it could to some of you, right? The name can matter, but on the level of the label isn't it. The word isn't it, until the word becomes flesh. Okay, so in Judaism, there's a Noah Chad Ushemo Echad, that God is one, and God's name will be one. In Christianity, there's the Word became flesh. So my suggestion to you is how we bring our divine alignments, how we bring the joy, the beauty, all the things that we really want, the passion, the purpose, the love, the connection, the kindness, the forgiveness, all these things that we all are trying to live from. Well, when you come into alignment with yourself, those things become more obvious, and we start to discover it's right here. But that's a real raw, naked place to be. It's very vulnerable to be at the edge of the unknown. But that power that's propelling life into reality propelled us into mind to be a separate individual and to survive. Because if we went back 1,000 years and we didn't react to that animal from our instincts, we would have been killed by now. We wouldn't be around as a species. So this has all served us. But the upgrade of being a human being now is to finally discover that you can function free from your mind. You can use the mind, but without the mind using you again, right? So how do we actually be free from the mind? We have to become aware of what is the mind that has to keep my attention stuck in it. So this root pattern, you delve into this, you start to inquire, you start to notice it, you start to become aware of it, you'll start to see the operating system of the mind. You'll start to see, oh, the mind's, I'm turning to my mind. So now, as that repelling's happening, we're actually turning to our mind for who I am, for what I should do, for what I should not do. Did I do that right? Did I do that wrong? I should fix it. or what's the matter with you, you piece of shit, oh, you fuck up everything, you're so lazy, you're never going to make it. Whatever the thoughts are, you're so amazing. Whatever the thoughts are, that avoiding the edge. Why? So now why? Well, because the body-mind thinks that that edge, if it falls over into that void, if it steps over that abyss, it can't hold on to me. Its whole job is to avoid that and to perpetuate this me story. As long as we're believing in this story of me, then we're identified, now we're separate. And that's its job, is to create separation. But when you become aware of your own awareness, become conscious, as awareness expands, you can recognize that you can release from the operating system, release from the survival animal. So then the operating system is still projecting life and perception, allows us to be here. But the source of that is I am that I am. The source of that is the same consciousness, love, energy, whatever you want to call that, that moves all of life, that moves you. And when you allow yourself to actually be moved, and you recognize you're always being moved, well, that's where life starts to flow. So avoiding the unknown to maintain special me. So what is this special me? So A, what you can do is, what is the unknown? You can look into that. How do you avoid? Start to notice how you turn to your mind. Notice how your energy turns to your mind to solve the problem, to create the problem, to label things, to dissect them, to tell you the narrative of your story as the lead. Recognize how much of your day is your tension with your thoughts. How much of the day is your tension with the discomfort or the not liking of something, and then turning to the figuring out mind. Because if the mind has to figure out to avoid the unknown, because then it knows. So it wants to be in figuring out mode. Now that's a great skill to have. We can use the mind to figure out, again, but not have it using you. Who wants the mind using you all the time? It's like having you on a leash. So again, it's time to let the leash be snapped free and for you to take the handle. And to take the handle is to let the mind finally be a mind. So now we can start to become aware, okay, I avoid the unknown. What does this special me? To maintain special me. The mind is avoiding the unknown. The ego mind is avoiding the unknown to maintain special me. Well, on the void side, if it falls over, it can't hold on. It can't create another label. It can't hold on to the cliff. It doesn't want to fall. It has to hold on for dear life. And that is the fixation. That is the fixation of ego. That is the tension of life. That is the anxiety. That is the pain. And so we learn how to stack over that. We create our characteristics, our personality traits, our ways of survival. Not good or bad. They're the functionality of what got you to this point. And as you both probably know, that most of our strengths are also our weaknesses. And our weaknesses have within them our strengths. Flip side of the same coin. So it's not to regret, beat yourself, or make yourself wrong that you went through this process of your life to this point. It is to actually turn back to your life and to choose all of it. So avoiding the unknown, it wants to continue to operate out of that stream of avoiding, thinking it knows and understands already. Either if it's a new situation, the mind will dissect that, label it, rip it up, and put it in the compartment right away. So we're always living through this veneer of life instead of actually being in life. So instead of being in the matrix, you're actually in creation. And when you recognize that you're in creation, well, many of you have had that experience and that opening in nature. You've had that opening of the gratitude of your own existence. And that's where life becomes solid, when you can actually live moment to moment in a gratitude of your own existence. Well, then life is really solid. And it's actually just the beginning of life in a lot of ways, because now you can really let yourself go. You can own your own value. You can see how your unique DNA, the gift of you, that you exist in this moment, that life is giving you life, the breath is being received. Why isn't that enough? Well, because the mind has to jump over that to the do-have-be paradigm. So therefore, the mind can't get you to true freedom, no matter how great you are at mindset. So, I'm going to break this down for you a little bit. So this reaction is made of this avoiding of the unknown to maintain special me. Therefore, tension in the mind, and we react to life. Right? We react to others based on the past. So this habitual patterning of our lives and conditioning and domestication of being a separate individual because the animal had to substantiate itself in separation. We become aware of that as we notice the avoiding, see what the unknown is, and we start to see how we're turning to our mind into that special me story. So why special me? I'm saying this me story, the story of me, is always being perpetuated, the constant narration, pages of the chapters, chapter after chapter, thinking that you actually are just this body, just these thoughts. And let alone this body, but the perception, the interpretation of the circumstances of other people and of yourself. So whenever we are actually in reaction to life, then that is what's running our life. Our past is literally running our life. And since you can't tool yourself out of that by another doing of a thing to get to a better way, we want to simply recognize awareness, consciousness, your own being itself. That is the cure for everything, honestly. Because only from there can you actually embrace yourself, be with your pain, notice your resistance, have true compassion for every aspect of yourself, become whole. Because you're not pushing away parts of yourself. You're not making this part of yourself wrong and bad, and this is the better part of yourself. You stop living in the Jekyll and Hyde of being a human being, and you come into the grace of creation in your very own existence. So as we turn from reaction, from the past, we can start to see how the mind, ego mind, has to be special. It has to maintain that you're the best or you're the worst. And it doesn't care which one. So for those of you who are on the trip of I'm so amazing, well, that's what the mind needs to keep telling you so you can substantiate, I'm me, I'm somebody, I'm it, yeah. That's its job. Never really facing the void. Never facing the gunk. So then if you wonder why your relationships aren't working, if you wonder why your business isn't working, if you wonder why your relationship with yourself isn't working, it's because you're avoiding yourself. You can't get real with you, with an intimate relationship with an other, when all these veneers and past is leading into your life and bleeding into your life. Because then when you see somebody else, you're actually seeing them through the filters of the past labels and perception from the compartment. So you're not really being with them. You're having filters between you and them based on past, based on someone else that used to look like that person. Sometimes you're seeing someone for the first time. Because the mind has to always label and dissect, protect. Label, dissect, protect. Avoiding the unknown to maintain that me. So all the other patterns that come after that, we won't talk about. I mentioned some of them. But they're all doing that to maintain this me story. So what you can start to take a look at is does your mind have you be special? Concerned what other people think of you, looking at how you look and don't look to others, being super proud of yourself, having to maybe put others down, different ways that plays out. Start to experience and recognize what's the matter with you. You're a piece of shit. You're no good. You'll never make it. Why am I a procrastinator? Why am I lazy? What's wrong with me? That's all defining that me. So it's maintaining it. And it's also having a narrative about your life, what you need to do, what you need to have, what's the matter with you. Constant narration. And that's the story of you, the story of me. And we can speak about that and write that out. But when we're stuck in that, that is suffering. That is the root of all suffering and pain. That is the root of keeping you limited. So we want to actually become aware of that. When we become aware of that, we actually stop believing our mind to be who we are. We stop being identified with thoughts about ourselves. So instead of meditation, which is great, by the way, great meditations out there, but in accessing, instead of sitting to meditate, to do that and get to have that experience so that you can be happier, freer, which works if you meditate a lot, but it doesn't last. How do we start to actually have a palpable quantum shift in our very own experience of life, where instead of reacting to life, we actually have a choice to survive or thrive? And when we recognize that choice to survive or thrive, thriving, you start to recognize this is finally being first. And as you notice that, you're fulfilled in that, and now there's space finally to recognize and meet the void that the whole animal's running from. And as long as an emotion's running you, or you're running from an emotion, well, that's not freedom. Even if you have a sense of how to get to your inner peace, or how to get yourself pumped up, you have to do it against that. Now that dynamic is important because that push against, that rubber meets the road, is how we have resilience and growth. But when it's unconscious, it's just running you as a robot, as a program. So you can try to be aware of thousands of patterns and figure them all out and rewire them all. And these things I'm not putting down. I've done a lot of that work and it's great. But the surest path, especially in this time where the intensity of the shadow is increasing in the world, and as the Kabbalists say, when the greatest where the greatest darkness rises, so does the greatest light. I would ask you to consider that you are that light, that the entrepreneurial spirit in you that's ready to have impact, show up and let your talents, your unique DNA move into this world, that the world is calling your light into the world. And the only way for you to really see your own light is to come into alignment with that, and to also embrace what you think is the shadow. Because when the shadow is seen, you recognize that that's all light, or that it's all included. Right? That God, life, is creator of light and dark, and that the yin-yang has the dark and the white, right? And the holes are the opposites in it. And if one starts growing, like if the white starts overpowering, well, the black circle starts to grow inside the white too. So it always is already balanced. You don't have to try to get to balance. You come in alignment to a full embrace of the entire yin-yang. That's the best. Because then you're actually here receiving life. Okay? So start to inquire, and how do you avoid the unknown? What is the unknown? How do you turn to your mind? How does that energy move to your mind and move you into that do-have-be paradigm? And what does this special mean? How much of your life is spent in that narrative of your life? And you might be like, I love my life. I love being in my head. My mind is powerful. Okay. And are you fulfilled? Are you flowing? Are you limitless? You may believe you are, but are you? We have to tell the deepest truth. So then we can start to see what is being hidden, what is the blind spot. Okay, so let's see what time we're at here. Okay, 37 after, that's good timing. So what we want to see, when we start to be able to see that reaction, okay, when we start to see the operating system for what it is, the mind for what it is, we actually start to, instead of being meshed into the mind's interpretation and meaning and reaction, we start to release, right, that part of the story that's based on the interpretation and the meaning of the mind. We start to be with what is, actually what's occurring. Like we tell a story, I went in this room, this person attacked me, right, it was horrible. We start to describe it, that's the perception and the interpretation of it. But actually what occurred is you came into a room, person came up to you, they hit you, whatever happened, right? The isness of that moment is actually the totality of your own existence. So there's never a moment that you're not being. You're always being. Trying to be here now, doing a practice to be here now, it's kind of funny if you get to think about it, if you don't think about it. Doing a practice to be here now, yeah, you could say, well, your practice makes perfect, sure. But that's still always going to be in that do-have-be separation paradigm. That's operating from a perceptual part of life. Therefore, in the reaction and the filters. Okay? So we want to have room for it all. And the first way to do that is start to become aware of the reactivity. Become aware of the ego-mind structure. What is your mind and how does it keep your attention stuck in it is the inquiry here. When we become aware of how your attention is stuck in it, and access points, we nail this. Once you see the operating system of mind, you stop buying into the critic, the negativity, the thoughts. You actually stop believing your mind altogether. And then the choice of the clear thought, which we'll get to in a moment, becomes really clear. You start to have that intuitive voice, that intuitive clarity, that sense of knowing, that gut knowing, that body knowing, that heart knowing, that intelligence that is life, fluidly. You're in that constant connectivity. Right? So that moment you have that out of nature, it has to always be here. If you can access in any moment this unity, this consciousness, this perfection, it has to be right here. So why aren't you living from that all the time? Only because things are veiling that or blocking that, because they needed to until they don't need to anymore. But now it's time to see. And that's what real seeing is. That's what some people say, third eye. Third eye isn't just this retina here. Third eye is seeing through the veils of perception, through the veils of limitation, through the story of your mind, through the judgments, through the insult, through the battle, through the labels, through the concepts, through the problems and the solutions. to the core of your own being, to the center of the storm. You don't want to live in the chaos of the storm. You want to live from the center. And it's easy. The only thing that makes it difficult is the mind. So we start to have this shift. Okay? So I want to talk about the three different ways. The three different ways, but the three different main functions of this reactivity. And we'll look a little deeper into your relationship with these, okay? So the first one we start talking a little bit about, which is thoughts. All right? So our connection in reaction to the thought, our relationship to our thoughts, which is impulsive, immediate, and framed as we come through it, again, based on past trauma and drama, based on past living, based on mind's past labels and ideas. But you're not those ideas. You're not the past. You can't give me the past. The past is in thought, just like the future is in thought. So we start to see that thought, like I was saying earlier, can never really get you there. Okay? The second part of that is we have sensations, right? To have space for all of them and to stop reacting and battling from thought is to finally let thought just be thought. Let thought come and go. Not try to stop your mind. That's the biggest myth in the world. Yes, there's a theta state when you become good at stopping your mind, but you don't need to be in theta all the time. You don't need to be anything other than what you are right now, actually, all the time. But recognizing your own awareness expands awareness. So you stop being limited. Okay, so thoughts come and go, right? Sensations, right? So you have bodily sensations. You can feel yourself if you're sitting, if you're standing, you can feel your feet on the ground. There's something uncomfortable, whatever's going on, there's sensations, right? And we react from that or to those sensations. Then there's feelings, right? There's emotions. Some people, like you know those people who just don't even know that they feel. I got a little itch from this shirt here. Some people don't even know that they have emotions, like they're just blank. That's real repressed, and that's okay. That's their way of functioning. It served them, but until they're able to actually start to recognize that they are avoiding that fear, that anger, worthiness, which is the shame and the blame, or that fear of fear, that paranoia, that worry that you're not okay, that you'll be destroyed. And so we can come to terms with that and actually be with that. We're always going to be running on that surface level of life. Right, like being the wave and thinking that you're the top of the wave, and you're like, fuck yeah, man, I'm the wave, woohoo, here I am, I'm a wave, and then all of a sudden the wave crashes back in, and you're like, oh shit, I'm the ocean. Right, so a lot of you have snapped out of it and had that recognition. Now it's time to upgrade you, to train free from the mind. Again, we cannot do that in a short period here, but we're going to get a little taste of that, and we're going to see the structure of that, which we want to first have that framing of that, and then you can get about it. So first, I just gave you a gem. If you miss that, then you're just hearing me speak and you're not really taking it into your life. Avoiding the unknown to maintain special me is the root pattern of how your mind maintains your attention being stuck in it. And since attention is effortless to move, once we start to recognize that my attention automatically is with thought, automatically is with body reaction, sensation, and emotion reaction, now that we're aware of that, it doesn't have to be reactive. We actually have choice. We can start to respond to life, be with life, flow with life, move with life, on the up and on the down. All right, so thought, sensation, and emotion. We're going to delve a little more into emotion. There's books on emotional intelligence. Okay? There's books on emotional intelligence, and they will teach you that you overpower your thoughts. That too, that would be mindfulness and mindset. You overpower your thoughts with negative thoughts. But you overpower your emotion. If there's anger, you learn how to harness that anger, push that anger down. If there's fear, you learn how to control it. So emotional intelligence, most people don't even know what that is in the world, but those of you who do, it's often taught in a way that you're going to manage, fix, change, or control your emotions. And now I am my mind, and I'm controlling my emotions, and now I got it together. Which honestly, in a way, is like puckering up, like puckering up your sphincter, puckering it up. Because I got it together, I'm in control. And all that is actually combating emotion. It's never letting emotion be here. So there's a pivotal workshop that I offer that's called Freedom with Emotions. We actually include that in the accessing process because it's just pivotal. We must, as we start to shift, that's what these access points are about, and we'll do a little taste of that. as we start to shift, to notice that center of the storm, to notice that there is something that does not come and go, that is ever present, always here, already connected. And it's not bliss. It's not the experience you had in the past. It's all-inclusive. It is the force, Luke. It is the force. As we start to recognize that with our direct experience, we shift our attention from mind to the center. As we keep doing that, as the great Ramana Maharshi said, we keep doing that, we'll start to have an unraveling of the fixation of ego. It will unravel, right? So the gem of avoiding the unknown to maintain special me, that root pattern itself, if you become aware of that, instead of trying to fix it, you see the mind avoiding. You see the discomfort in the body. You see how you propel into your thoughts. You see that construction of that me story, how you're always the lead, and now you're aware of it. Well, now you're aware of that operating system. You finally let the mind be an effing mind. And it's time for that. It's really time for that. All right, so reaction, right, made up of that main root pattern, avoiding the unknown to maintain special me, based on the past labels, the past dissecting, put in that compartment, the filter between you and everybody else in life, reacting with thought, sensation, emotion, our reactions to those, okay? And that is always propelling us over there, right? Propelling us over there, where the mind's ruminating from the past, but we think we're getting over there, future. But when the future comes, it's now also. But once we can actually be with emotion, be with that edge of the unknown becomes your ally. Every emotion that you thought wasn't good for you as the bad emotion becomes that fire of life, that part that's propelling the operating system, that is allowing you to breathe right now, that has the sun coming up, the force, the energy of everything. It's so intense. Life is so intense, the body-mind can't handle it. It can't control it. Therefore, when we finally allow ourselves to finally be with emotions, we develop an emotional intelligence, because every single emotion has a gift for you. Every single emotion that you've been told is a bad emotion, that you don't like, that you're suffering from or maybe struggling from, or that you're trying to overcome or control, has a gift for you that you can never get if you can't actually first be and then be with that emotion, with its frequency, with the feeling, to have space for it, to embrace it, to actually have like tea with it. Now, some of you are already learning to do that emotional intelligence work, and it's beautiful. Yet if you're doing it from the do, have, be paradigm, like I need to be with my emotions, release my shadow so that I can have X and be happy, then it's still going to be a surface level healing and growth, okay? But if we actually start to notice being so often in life, you shift 20 times a day in access points every single day. The access points do it for you. They do the heavy lifting. You keep shifting. Now, oh, it's always here. Oh, that moment's here. Yes, I'm here. Yes, I'm here. Being's here. Freedom's here. Freedom's here. And after a while, you start to become more identified with the core of yourself instead of mind. And that's how you own your own value. Because from that clarity, you have true self-love for yourself, true self-power comes from that core, comes from that core power. So there's awakening to this infinite being, this connectivity of life, this I amness, the all-inclusiveness. But there's also an awakening to this creative impulse, the Big Bang. The sages of the Old Testament, the Torah, say that Genesis is happening now. It always excites me, even when I just say it. Genesis is happening now. Creation, the Big Bang is happening now. Life, if you notice, will end on simple G here, this axis point. But each axis point creates that shift. We start to shift into a receiving. So now we're receiving that emotion, and instead of freedom from that emotion, controlling that emotion, we start to discover freedom with the emotion. As we can actually be with the emotion, we have a process. You start to discover where that is in your body. Your attention falls into it. You let it consume everything. You actually become merged with it. You become companions with it. Then it opens a secret door. and you fall into it, and you discover a gem. And that's not a one-time discovery. It's not like, okay, fear really means excitement, and that's it. Because perhaps one time you meet fear, you discover excitement, you discover everything's already peaceful in the center of it. But if you right away meet fear and determine that again, now you're in that recycled, labeled mind of the past experience. But if you're authentically meeting your emotion, now we're in with emotional intelligence. Now you have every emotion, every thought, everything of life is being received here, intersected, and this is the dynamic of flow. Okay? When we're free from the reactivity, or we can operate from this place where we have space and room for it all, now, at the edge of the unknown, where all creation, all invention, all art arises from, right? If you want to live the frequency of creation, of flow, and stop thinking it's one thing or the other, but it's the dynamic of truly being you and letting that out. Having no shame or blame about being you. And not that I gotta be me and prove me, right? Because that's just more of that same suffering, that same loop. So when we come into alignment, now we intersect that unknown, where everything comes from that power. But instead of it being projected, right, there's a peripheral tension that will still go through mind and create perception. But that core of that energy that was too intense to handle, you're opening now to a greater circuitry of yourself. And as you can take in that greater circuitry, that greater power, and you can finally be at the edge of the unknown, now instead of over there, there's only right there, right here. There's a stepping into life, a showing up in life. Right here. There's only one direction, and that is the actual only direction of life. There's only one direction, and that is the only direction of life, and that direction is into the future, and it's for sure as hell not coming from the past. So now we can finally be present with an emotion, and it sparks something. It ignites the intensity, the discomfort, the anxiety, the depression, the fear, the anger, the stress wants to show you something, and it's nothing the mind, again, can never get. It has to be happening in direct experiences. Your attention, your own awareness, your own beingness takes that into the center of the storm, and there's space. You recognize that being itself, the I am itself, has no problem with what you're feeling. It's only the sensation of the feeling or the mind's interpretation of that that has an issue with what you're experiencing in life, or the problem with your life, the circumstance. So now you start to recognize, I have a conscious choice in my relationship to circumstances, to others, and to myself. The blame game and the victimhood ends because you take full responsibility. You discover you have sovereignty, that you are connected, that that connection is always here. And intuition, clarity leads to more clarity. So you come to the clearing for clarity. It's not like, well, what do I do then? That's turning back to the mind to figure it out. After a while, you can recognize that you don't have to believe your mind at all. You can operate from the space of clarity. So analogy I was giving earlier, which I think is a good one here to recognize what intuition is. It's not about how do I use my intuition. It's that the clear voice is already here. Once that negative thought, 70%, 98% regurgitated thought, once the stream of consciousness of all that information isn't like hooking you and running you in the battle with the emotions, there's obviously clarity. And that clarity allows the clear voice, the God voice, the still voice, your intuitive voice to be heard, to be felt, to be recognized. And so flow becomes obvious. My experience of life is almost like if you were walking in a house of mirrors and you really didn't know where the next path was because it's like which way, but instead of you believing the perception, you just flow right through those mirrors. You flow. Now sometimes you swim upstream for some resilience. And you start to actually, what happens after a while, once you deal with all those emotions, what's uncomfortable becomes more comfortable. Like a rock climber, if you first go to the edge of a cliff and you go out to the edge of a cliff, you're going to come to that edge, it's going to be uncomfortable. A rock climber after a while can just sit at that edge and chill and hang out. But they're still aware. If they don't pay attention, that they could die. So the awareness is it. But when you forge yourself at this edge of the unknown, you develop trust. And that trust gets forged again and renewed again. And that deeper trust turns into a total faith, a total trust in life, a total trust in yourself. Not dependent upon the mind's ideas or the future. The choice of how you choose to be with a circumstance, another, and yourself, comes from the choice of you being you, authentically and real. Because when you're raw and vulnerable at the edge of the unknown, you're real. Because you get sick of hiding. You get sick of pretending. You get sick of the survival pattern running your life. And you're ready to come to yourself. And that's where you own your own value. Okay? So you own your own value, and you start to become aware. I give you that root pattern, avoiding the unknown to maintain special me. How your attention turns to your mind, to your thoughts. And that maintaining of that me, when your attention's in that, you are living through that perceptual vehicle. You're actually living only through your mind. When we become aware, when we don't have to bleed into the mind, when we can remain with the center of ourselves, we now have room for all the emotion. Imagine when every single aspect of you is actually welcomed here. No part of yourself is pushed away or battled. So you're not seeking to get rid of the depression. Instead, you're coming in to see the root of it. It's a fear of unworthiness and a sadness. And now you're able to choose to not believe the negative thoughts and actually be with that sadness so you don't spiral downward for days or weeks into sadness, anger, depression, a war, whatever the hell it is. Instead, you're able to have a true transmutation of that. Or actually, sadness isn't even what you think it is. It has something to offer you. So you start to have this guidance system, this GPS of emotions, all from the ground of well-being. So each access point creates that shift. And I'll give you another gem here. I'm not going to train that right now. We can train this in some other sessions. I more want you to explore this for yourself. But by training it and telling you about it, we already are training it if you choose to recognize your experience right now. For a moment, notice your breath. For a moment, notice your breath is occurring. Notice, do you have to do anything to breathe? The mind can say yes or no. The mind can be so what, thinking about this. What if you just let thoughts come and go? Let them come and go because they are coming and going. Let your attention, you might want to close your eyes. Let your attention, notice the breath occurring. Notice the inhale and the exhale happening. Don't do a breathing exercise here. I'm not asking for that. Just notice it happening. Now tune into maybe your chest area and notice that receiving. Notice, does the inhale keep returning? And just let your attention, notice that space where it comes back, or it returns, and it's being received. The body just receives it, doesn't it? Nose or mouth draws it in. You can feel the back of your throat. You can feel your chest raise. You start to attune to this receiving. You may think you can't notice it all the time, but you actually can as you start to train and notice. You start to attune to that receiving. If you tune in, you'll notice that there's already gratitude in the body of receiving breath. Or receiving life. And the mind would be like, yeah, but, my problems, my solutions. If you don't buy into your mind anymore, and that takes training, guys, it does. But we do it in 8 weeks. We quantum leap you out of your mind. You quantum leap yourself, actually. I point in the system of access points. It's not another teaching. It's not another dogma. It's not even the steps. It's seeing the operating system, so we start to be free from the mind, shifting so often that we stabilize with our true self, our authentic self. Therefore, trusting ourselves at the edge of the unknown. And the edge of that unknown awakens us to this creative spark. So now that receiving, if you're receiving breath and you're receiving your own existence, you're receiving the thoughts, you're receiving it, but not having to grab onto it, not having to get rid of it. It's no longer running you. With that receiving, what's the opposite of receiving? Giving. That receiving moves into giving. So the dynamic of flow happens really only from here in the core of yourself. And the receiving of what was once thought of as the bad part of yourself, or the negative emotion, that's the resilience that forges the intensity. The releasing will happen here as you start to be with those emotions. You'll release past trauma and drama. I take people deep into these moments where we crystallize that fear that ran us, that void, so that we can fall into the void. Now listen, the body-mind doesn't want anything to do with being, because then it has to fall into the void. It has to admit the unknown. So the body-mind doesn't want to fall over the unknown. But when you let yourself step into the unknown fully and it becomes your ally, when it becomes your ally, then you recognize not only can you step over any fear or paradigm or limitation, but you can step over courageously and release and surrender. And as you're falling into yourself and falling over that cliff, falling into that void, you recognize that you're okay, that we're all falling, we're already held, and actually wind gets underneath your wings and you soar. And the world needs you to soar right now. It's ready for you to take flight. All right, so take these with you. That's how this becomes actionable in your life. If you take this with you, check it out. How do you avoid the unknown? How do you maintain the special me? Are you the character and the lead in your movie? Or is that thoughts that keep perpetuating themselves? How do you have your relationship with thoughts, sensations, and feelings? What meaning and reaction happen from them? And how do you have filters with yourself and others and circumstances? As you become aware of that, you'll become more to the center of yourself, right? As you be with the center of self, you can actually welcome every part of yourself. That's wholeness, that's true self-love, that's true self-power. And then that edge of the unknown that the animal wanted to run from still propels the operating system, lets the mind still create perception, but has you go in the only direction of life, which is the rising of you, the impact of you, the gift of you, the creation flow of you. That's true flow. There's room for all of it. It's not just a space or a state. The biggest flow is life. So I want to read one thing, and this is actually for some prayers that I say every day from the Psalm of King David. All right, and I'll end on this with you. It's saying of life, God, the Lord supports all who fall and makes erect all who are bent. The eyes of all look expectantly to you, and you give them their food at the proper time. We could think we're not fed, we're starving, but what if everything's happening for you, not against you? And this is the line I really wanted to say to you is, you open your hand and satisfy the desire of every living thing. What is already open? What is already feeding you? Life. That satisfies the desire of every living thing. What allows you to be alive? What has you existing? Instead of going into the ideas of that and the debate of that, start to notice that you exist. Start to notice that receiving. Okay, so avoiding the unknown to maintain special me, inquire into that. Become aware of that reactivity, the thought, sensation, emotion, others, circumstances, yourself, and start to notice that receiving of breath. As you attune to that receiving frequency, in gratitude, there's no lack and no need. That gratitude and receiving frequency move into a creation frequency, and you start to see a whole new life. You start to recognize that maybe you are actually in the garden, that heaven on earth is actually right here. All right, lots of love. You deserve to live this true access to flow. So before I jump off, if you want to actually go deeper into these processes with me of access points, we have reopened access points recently. We took a little break as I was traveling in Hollywood. We have some film deals and other things coming up. Very exciting. So a couple of things I'll share with you. A, you can go to brianmark.com and Brian Mark, BrianMarc.com. You can hit book a call and we'll set up a clarity session for you where we'll start to take a look at what is your consciousness evolution, what seems to be the blocks, and then to have clarity on that and to actually train in some accessing for yourself directly. We also have a workshop coming up as an introduction to this revolutionary breakthrough in life that can happen for you in 8 weeks, Quantum Leap for Life. And it's not just a micro skill, it's a macro skill. It applies to every aspect of your life to be able to be with your partner, to deepen into intimacy, to deepen into peace with your loved ones, to deepen into presence with your children, to deepen into your talents and your gifts, to deepen into the work and the people that you're around in every moment. There are no mistakes. That this is you. Let's show up fully. All right? So you can also go to my Instagram page. A lot of videos are shared there. So it's at Brian Marc Zimberg. Go to my Instagram or my Facebook page, which I'm broadcasting live into Don't Block Your Blessings from here, and check out the videos there. But the link in my bio will also take you to that clarity session. Okay? And weekly, I'm on Clubhouse in the creation frequency, which we take a look at other entrepreneurs that are living that flow, how they went through breakdowns and breakthroughs and ideas in themselves, and then started to stop believing in the lie and know the truth of owning their own value. So to own your own value is you can only do it right here. It can't be based on the ideas of you. All right? So you can go to brianmark.com/private. BRIANMARC, which was my middle name that I used to go by, /private. All right, and we can explore together, and DM me on Instagram. That's where I get back to people and we can explore. So Creation Frequency in Habit Hackers Club on Clubhouse is every single Tuesday at 1:55 p.m. Pacific, 4:55 Eastern. That's a phenomenal space to come with me. We do a meeting every Friday at 2 p.m., a collective awakening session or an introduction to access points. And you can just reach out right now and book that session and change your life. We've ended mental disease, suicide, OCD, PTSD, anxieties of all types. We take the lid off for top entrepreneurs and executives by the limitation and that ceiling they break through by coming to themselves and living into this divine flow. And spiritual seekers of 10, 20, 30 years go, oh my God, it's so simple. It's right here. Like someone just shared with me, I realized my whole life I've been seeking that peaceful feeling or that peaceful state. You start to recognize it's not that. So I'm ready for you to have a quantum leap. I'm ready for the world to have a quantum leap. I have no doubt that's what's actually really going on. We're going through labor pains. Hold tight. Be the compassionate, loving self that you are. Show up, but emancipate yourself first from mental slavery. As Bob Marley said, none but the self, ourselves, can free our minds. Let's discover that self, and let's rock and roll into life. Let's show up, because we are that light to meet the darkness. That which is satisfying, the desire of every living being, is asking you to come closer to yourself. All right. Lots of love, everybody. Be great. You are.